She was standing outside a luxury hotel, soaking wet, clutching a torn coat like it was armor.
Get off the steps,
the guard snapped. But she didn't move. She just stared at the photo in her hand, a photo of him. The billionaire everyone said would never look at a woman like her. Inside they were laughing, the same people who once called her trash. But in just a few hours, those same people would see her walk through that door again, wearing a wedding ring worth more than their cars. Crazy, right? So how did a homeless black woman end up marrying the man everyone said was out of her league? Quick question before the story begins. Where in the world are you watching from? And what time is it there? Let's see how many countries show up in the comments. Before the world called her lucky, before the tabloids labeled her the billionaire's wife, she was just Maya Thompson, a young woman trying to survive another night on the streets of Chicago. Every morning, she'd wake up on the same park bench across from the cafe where she used to work before they fired her. "We just don't think you fit our image," her boss had said, avoiding her eyes. Everyone knew what that meant. Still, Maya tried to keep her head high. She'd walk inside that same cafe some mornings, order a black coffee with the few coins she had, and pretend she belonged. "Ma'am, you'll have to pay first," the new cashier would say, looking at her coat like it carried a disease. "I know," Maya would whisper, sliding her coins across the counter. People passed her every day, businessmen in suits, couples taking selfies, but no one saw her. Except one day, someone did. He wasn't from her world. His name was Ethan Reed, a tech billionaire with everything money could buy, but an emptiness even his wealth couldn't fill. He saw Maya sitting by the cafe window, sketching something in her worn-out notebook. "Those are beautiful," he said, pointing at her drawings. She looked up, startled. "They're nothing," but Ethan smiled, the kind of smile that said he actually meant it. That single moment was the start of everything. The laughter, the judgment, the headlines, and a love story the world never saw coming. Because no one could have imagined that the girl sleeping on park benches would one day stand at the altar beside the man they said she could never have. At first, no one noticed them together. Maya thought it would stay that way, quiet, harmless. Just a kind man who sometimes shared coffee and conversation with a woman everyone else ignored. But Chicago has a way of talking, and soon the whispers started. Why is he sitting with her? She's probably after his money. You'd think a man like Ethan would know better. Maya heard every word. Some whispered behind her back, others said loud enough for her to hear. Ethan brushed it off, at least at first. "Let them talk," he told her one evening, handing her a steaming cup of tea. "They don't know you like I do." She smiled faintly, but deep down, she knew how the world worked, because to them, her skin color told a story they didn't want to rewrite. The first real sign came when Ethan took her to a charity gala. She borrowed a second-hand dress, stitched the torn hem herself, and tried to believe she belonged. But the moment they walked in, heads turned, like they'd just witnessed a crime. A woman in diamonds leaned toward her husband and whispered, "He could have brought anyone." "And he brings her?" Maya tried to smile through it, but Ethan saw her hands trembling. Then came the worst part. The waiter walked past them twice without serving. When Maya gently raised her hand, the man sighed and muttered, "Drinks are for guests, ma'am." Before she could respond, Ethan stood up, his voice low but sharp. "She is my guest. Actually, she's the only reason I showed up tonight." The room went silent. Cameras turned. Whispers turned into headlines the next morning. Billionaire Ethan Reed spotted with mysterious black woman at gala. From the streets to his side. Who is she really? The story exploded. Paparazzi followed her everywhere. Reporters camped outside the cafe. Even strangers on social media tore her apart. She's using him. She's faking the sob story. She doesn't belong in his world. One night, she found graffiti on the park bench she used to sleep on. "Gold digger. Stay in your lane." She sat there for hours, staring at it. When Ethan found her, she was silent. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll never see me as anything more than where I came from." He knelt beside her, holding her hand. "Then we'll show them who you really are." But even love couldn't shield her from everything. When Ethan announced they were engaged, the backlash turned brutal. His business partners warned him, "This could destroy your reputation." His mother called it a phase. One even told her, "You're ruining his life." Maya wanted to run, to protect him, to disappear before things got worse. But Ethan refused. "I'm not letting the world's hate decide who I love," he said. And yet, the more they tried to move forward, the tighter the noose of public judgment became. Anonymous threats started showing up. A brick through the window, letters calling her names she hadn't heard since childhood. One evening, as they sat together in silence, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from his board: "Choose wisely. Her, or everything you've built." Maya turned away before he could hide it. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "Don't," she said quietly. "I won't be the reason you lose everything." The next day, she was gone. No note, no goodbye. Just a coffee cup left on the cafe table where they first met. And from that moment, everything changed. For days, Ethan searched everywhere, shelters, stations, the cafe, nothing. It was like Maya had vanished into thin air. The world was quieter without her laughter, but louder with judgment. News anchors speculated. Sources say the engagement is off. Social media celebrated it like justice had been served. Then one rainy afternoon he found her, sitting by the river, coat soaked, sketchbook in her lap. She looked up, startled. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I've been looking for you," he said, voice breaking. "You just disappeared." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't disappear, Ethan. I was erased. By your world. By their words. Every headline, every stare. It's like they peeled the skin off my dignity." He stepped closer. "I don't care what they think." She shook her head. "But I do. Because every time they look at me, I see the same question in their eyes. Why her?" Before Ethan could respond, a crowd began to gather nearby, phones out, cameras ready. Someone shouted, "Hey, Ethan! Where's your gold-digger fiancé now?" Laughter followed. Maya flinched. The same humiliation all over again. Ethan turned to them, fury in his eyes. "You think this is funny?" But they just kept filming. Maya stood trembling. "Don't, Ethan, that's what they want." He looked at her, his voice low. "No, Maya, what I want is for them to see the truth." He took her hand, right there in front of everyone, and said, "You want a headline? Here's one. I love her. And I'm done apologizing for it." The crowd went silent. Some lowered their phones. Others just stared. Rain poured harder, blurring everything. But in that moment it didn't matter. Because even under all that noise, all that hate, two people stood their ground, still. Behind that moment of courage, Maya knew one thing. Love could make a statement, but it couldn't erase the scars. And what happened next would test just how much two hearts could endure in a world that refused to change. Weeks passed. The storm of headlines faded, as they always do. The world moved on to its next scandal. But for Maya and Ethan, the scars stayed. They didn't run from the world. They rebuilt their own, quietly, away from flashing cameras and gossip columns. Ethan sold his company, donated millions to shelters, the same places Maya once called home. Together, they started an art foundation for underprivileged kids, giving voices to those the world had learned to ignore. One afternoon, during an interview, a reporter asked, "Do you ever regret it? The backlash, the judgment?" Maya smiled softly. "If love costs peace, maybe it's worth paying. But if silence costs dignity, never again." Her words went viral. Not because they were loud, but because they were true. For every hateful comment that once flooded her name, thousands now stood up in her defense. People who once scrolled past injustice started to speak up. Because sometimes it only takes one story, one face, to make people feel what statistics never could. Still, Maya knew her story wasn't unique. It was the echo of countless others who never got the chance to be heard. The woman denied a job because of her skin. The man followed in a store. The child taught to shrink themselves to feel safe. That's the thing about racism. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, quietly enough that people pretend not to hear. But Maya's story made one thing clear. Silence helps the system, not the soul. So maybe the next time we see someone being judged for where they came from, We ask ourselves, are we watching another story unfold? Or are we finally ready to change how it ends?